It is Wednesday, my dudes, and time for an old man yapping. Do a little YouTube dance. Like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. You know the deal. Y'all know the deal. So we're going to be talking today is the concept of talent, which is what's in the box before you put anything in the box. We're all born and we have the little box that we put all our stuff in. We call it our brain. It's our brain. We put shit in our brain. But typically, there's something in the box before we start filling it. Why? It's a fair question, and one that in recent weeks has been much on my mind. But more importantly, does talent exist? Does anybody have something just like in the box? And I think there is. I think there really is. But in order to talk about that, I need to worry about a couple of things. Ooh. Oh, that's good. Ooh, that's real good. Instead of using my general spiced rum, which I usually use in my Coke, I have this week chosen to use Rebel Yell Ginger Whiskey, which is not as strong of an alcohol, but oh my God, that's good. That is so good. Wow. That is so much better than I expected. Anyway, in order to talk about talent, I have to talk about my own experience because it's the only one I've got. And that experience will revolve, because we're talking about education, because we're talking about learning, it will revolve around school. And whenever I talk a little about my schooling, I talk a lot about my schooling. I know this is going to happen because I know me. And I'm going to start out, I'm going to try to talk a little bit about something, and I'm going to talk a whole lot, and I'm going to wander off topic, and there will be all kinds of stuff that comes into it. I know, I've seen me do it. So yeah, just fair warning, but try to keep in mind that we're supposed to be talking about talent. We're going to come back to talent repeatedly, I hope. It depends on how much of this drinking I do. Oh, man. That's just so good. Oh, bourbon, whiskey, and ginger. Oh, that is a good combination. That is a dangerous combination. Oh, God, that's good. Oh, I don't know why they call it Rebel Yell. They should call it Bonsai. I mean, ginger. Is ginger really associated with the Confederates? I don't think it is. Well, maybe ginger ale, ginger beer. Is that a Confederate thing? I don't know. Maybe. I will look into it at some point. But regardless, whenever I talk about talent, the thing that comes to my mind is when I was like 3 or 4 years old, back before I started school, there was a day that my mother asked me, "Would you like a cookie?" Well, yeah, because duh, I'm like 3 or 4 years old. And on top of that, my mother's like the huge health food nut. She was like at her crunchiest granola setting back in the early 70s. She really was. It's like her life was health food and meth. We didn't call it meth at the time. It was Dexedrine, and it was sold under the brand name Dexatrim. It was a diet supplement because if you're on speed, you forget to eat. That's just the way it works. That's why Skinny Pete's skinny in Breaking Bad. In any case, my mother's huge health food nut, and she offers me a cookie. And the idea that we had cookies in the house was strange to me, that we had cookies. And it's because my mother had discovered carob. Now, if you don't know, carob is basically, it's some natural health food shit that is supposed to taste like chocolate, but but doesn't. Not really. I mean, it's like chocolate, but it's not chocolate. But I'm like 3 or 4 years old. I don't fucking know. My mother has discovered this healthy chocolate, and she has made carob chunk cookies, and she's just made a batch of them, and she's giving one to her kid to see how he likes them. Obviously, I like them. I'm a kid. It's a cookie. Duh. And then she asked me if I would like another cookie. Well, yeah, 'cause duh. So she gives me another cookie, and shortly after I finish that one, I say, can I have another cookie? She says, well, you just had 2 cookies. So, well, can I have another one, though? And she said, well, okay, but just one more, because that's 3 cookies, and that's enough. Okay. And my brain got really fixated on that conversation because it was me trying to convince my mother to give me a cookie. It's very important to remember the elements of convincing your mother to give you a cookie. But what really got me was that's 2 cookies and one more will be 3 cookies. One more than 2 is 3. One more is the same as another. Another is exactly the same as one more. So when I had a cookie, when I had 1 cookie, then I had another cookie. That was 1 more cookie. And that was 2 cookies. And then another cookie was 1 more cookie, and that was 3 cookies. So 1 more than 1 is 3, and 1 more than 1 is 2, and 1 more than 2 is 3. So 1 more and 1 more than 1 is 3. 2 more than 1 is 3. 1 more and 1 more is 2 more. 1 more and 1 is 2. So 2 more than 1 is 3. And I got very bound up in this, and I remember very clearly sitting around and working out in my head. I had to work it out in my head because I didn't know how to draw the numbers yet. I had no idea. I understood what the numbers were, but I didn't know how to make marks on a paper to represent them yet. So I'm working all of this out in my head, and after a while, I went back out to my mom and I said, if I had another cookie, how many would that be? And she said, you can't have another cookie. I said, I know, but if I did, how many would that be? She said, that would be 4, and that's too many. 4. Well, more than 3 is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 fingers. And sometime later, not the same day, it was because I had to have the idea first of all. Having ideas takes a long time, especially when you're a kid. And eventually I went to my mother and I said, how many is this? And she said, that's 5. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's 5. And essentially from my mother giving me 3 cookies and saying another and 1 more in precisely the right way for me to put the pieces together, not only did I teach myself to count to 5, which I did not know before that, but on top of teaching myself to count to 5, I had synthesized the basics of number theory. And I had done this using algebraic thought. I didn't know any of this. I'm a fucking kid. I haven't even been to school yet. And when I went to school, by the time I got to school, my dad was amazed that I could count to 5. He taught me to count the rest of the way to 10. And then he taught me to count to 20 and then to count to 100. And then I figured out on my own how to count to 1,000. I asked him what comes after 999 because I didn't know. Is it 1,000? No, it's 1,000. Oh. So I knew how to count up to 1,000, and I had done it several times. But the notion of adding numbers bigger than 1,000, ooh, that was way beyond me. I couldn't do that. And I still had not figured out that you could add more than 2 numbers. Like, I had figured out that you could add 276 to 384, and you could get 660. But it had not occurred to me that you could add 3 numbers all at once, or that the digits just repeated forever, that they went on to infinity on both sides of the decimal point. I didn't know what a decimal point was. We hadn't covered that. When we did eventually cover decimal points, then that just fucking clicked. But the point is, I'm 3 years old, and I worked out number theory, algebra, and addition, with the fundamental axioms of addition anyway, all by myself, before I ever went to school. Which is kind of fucked up. But then I got to school, and of course everybody, oh, mathematical prodigy, oh, look at this, oh, it's amazing, all of the stuff that he can do. It was in first grade that it finally clicked for me that you could add any group of numbers. You could add any quantity of numbers by just, you add these 2 and you get 1, and then you can add that 1 to the next one, and that 1 to the next one, and that 1 to the next one. And when I worked out that digits are the same going all the way off to infinity, mind-blowing. And just like the world opens up, arithmetic becomes like a big thing, and multiplication is just iterated addition. Division is just iterated subtraction. Exponentiation is just iterated multiplication. And, everything was very simple to me. The thing I didn't figure out for a long time, and I mean like a really long time, I didn't understand what logarithms were for like ever. And unfortunately, when you're very, very good at something, they frequently have this brilliant idea of, why don't we just let him skip a grade? They let me skip 6th grade. And 6th grade was when we learned geometry. So I'd never studied geometry in school. And then when I got up to 8th grade and algebra 2 and trigonometry was really difficult for me to understand. And they were like, it's just geometry. I never took geometry. I had this hole in my knowledge where geometry should have been. And because I had that hole in my knowledge, it made that part of things really difficult. And this is the downside. This is the downside to talent. In 8th grade, I had trouble with trigonometry, and in 9th grade, I smacked headlong into pre-calculus, and pre-calculus annoyed me. I got up to induction, and then that was kind of where I got stuck. And then the next year, I was taking calculus, and calculus was really confusing to me. I couldn't really understand how derivatives and integrals were the same thing, only backwards. And it was just really difficult for me to comprehend this particular set of concepts, because I'd never encountered them before, and now that I was encountering them, I didn't know what the fuck I was looking at. But when I turned to my teachers and said, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at, they went, oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you never need help. You know everything. You know all the stuff. You're so good at all this stuff. You're so fast at all this stuff. You already know this. No, I don't fucking understand. I don't get it. This doesn't make sense to me. What is it? It still doesn't make sense to me. I still, to this day, I have my university college textbook on calculus and analytic geometry. It still doesn't make sense to me. And every so often, I crack open the textbook, and you can see I've been thinking about it lately because it's just sitting right over there. every so often, I break out the textbook and I crack it open and I try to get through it. And it's just, I mean, I get maybe 150, 200 pages into it and I just get lost. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's like I've hit a wall, and it's very frustrating because mathematics, that was my thing, man. My whole time growing up, that was my thing, was maths. And I just hit a wall. And I couldn't get any farther with it. I don't know why I couldn't get any farther with it. I don't know what was so difficult about it for me. But nobody was ever able to help me with it. Nobody was ever able to tell me what I was missing or what I was not getting right. Actually, my lead moderator on my Discord was really helpful in getting me past the whole differentials and integrals are opposites. He explained it in a way that actually made sense. And unfortunately, he explained it after I had just figured it out. It's like, I finally figured out how differentials and integrals work together. And he was just like, oh yeah, it's like this and that. And I'm like, where the fuck were you 40 years ago? Not born yet? Oh yeah, that would explain it. But the whole thing there is, talent is a double-edged sword. There are 8 subjects that I believe are the foundation of all human knowledge. One of them is mathematics. One of them is science. I was also good at science. One of them is language and communication. That's very important. I was good at language. I was good at English. And then you have history, which I was not good at, and geography, which I was not good at. Those are important because you need to understand the importance of events and the importance of location. And events and location together are what give you an understanding of politics. So as a kid, I didn't fucking understand any of that shit. Then you have athletics, and you have your physical education, because that's about understanding the limits of your body. What can your body do? And it's about understanding the limits of what other people's bodies can do. It's about teamwork. It's about understanding your capabilities and the capabilities of others and how to put them together and get stuff done that none of you could have done on your own. That's some important shit. I was not good at that when I was in school. And then you got the last two. One of them is morality. We don't teach morality in school in the United States because we've gotten morality confused with religion. And we just one of the issues with American culture is that the entirety of American society has been built around the fundamental assumption that while you do have freedom of religion, you're going to have a religion and you're going to go to church every week. And that church is going to teach you some kind of morality. And that morality is going to be more or less compatible with the morality of everybody else, because it's all going to be based on the same basic concept. Don't be a dick. That's basically what morality is. And we should have don't be a dick classes in school, but we don't, because we expect that to happen. And we expect that to happen in church. And nobody goes to church anymore. Well, most people don't go to church anyway. So, God, that is good. I may need to make myself another one of these. Holy shit. But then the last thing, the 8th thing, is art. And when I say art, I include music, dance, drama, theater, all of these different things that come under the heading of, fag stuff. Classes that fags take in school. That's what that is. Well, I went to school in the 80s, so that's what we said back then. You probably don't say that these days. Some schools probably still do, but, art teaches you how to deal with ideas and creativity and like coming up with stuff on your own. And all of these 8 subjects kind of come together as the foundation of whatever you might want to do in your life. And they're all important. They're all kind of critical thinking things that you need to know about. And then you get to university and we kind of expand on all of them and we combine them and we put them together in different ways. And we say, well, you put these together and you get philosophy, and you put these together and you get political science. You put these together and you get economics. Put these together and you get psychology. And all of this stuff is just, the fundamentals in combination. So you need that foundation, and then as you get farther, you kind of combine all of it. Now, the real thing here is, when it comes to the question of whether talent exists, I look back at figuring out how to count to 5 all by myself, and figuring out the elemental basics of number theory, axioms of addition, axioms of number theory, axioms of algebra, when I'm like 3 and 4 years old. How? Why? I don't fucking know. Nobody told me this stuff. Nobody taught me this stuff. Nobody tried to give me this information. But I came up with it. I synthesized it myself. I came up with that information all on my own. And that's talent. That's what talent is. It's what comes in the box and what you can build with what's in the box. I used to have a lot of Lego when I was a kid, a lot of Lego sets. And I would always build either the thing that the instructions told me to build, or I would build some toddler preschool bullshit. Like, all the way up until I was in my teens. It's just my ability to construct something new on my own was... It wasn't even minuscule. It was almost non-existent. And the reason for that, I think, is because I didn't have an appreciation for what art was. I had some talent in art, but the talent I had in art was not particularly great, and it was in specific areas of the fundamentals that managed to be both a benefit in some ways and a drawback in others. And I think we all have, to some degree, a level of awareness and a level of skill that that is somewhere above zero. And that's really, I think we all have a degree of talent, because nobody is just like completely incapable of anything. Okay? You might need somebody to tell you what the thing is, but you'll be able to do something once you understand, once you comprehend the concept of it. If somebody says, draw a line, you go, oh, what's a line? A line is a mark on the paper. Well, what's draw? Well, you take a thing that makes a mark, and you put it on the paper, and you move it, and that'll make a mark on the paper. And if you make a long, thin mark, that's a line. Oh, okay. And then you can make a line on the paper. You have to be told what it is, but figuring out how to move your hand to make the line on the paper, you can do that all on your own. You have that level of talent. You have the ability to put 2 lines together, to draw 3 or 4 or 5 lines and say, I've drawn several lines and together they look like a thing. Everybody has that level of talent at the very least. Well, almost everybody. And as long as you have like something to start with, once you're kind of given the core foundation of the vocabulary to talk about it, and a description of how you do the thing, you have a level of ability that just kind of comes out of nowhere. When somebody tells you, here's how to do the thing, okay, now I'll do the thing. There's how well you do the thing, and how well you do that thing is your level of talent. If you've been told how to do the thing and you still can't do the thing, that's zero talent. But that's like nobody. Nobody has that situation. So we all have some degree of talent. And when we're talking about the fundamentals of art, I divide the fundamentals of art into three core groups, which are perspective, lighting, and composition. And then each of those I divide into another three groups, because I really like the number 13. So you start with fundamentals, and then you add like the three groups under that, and that makes 4. And then you split each of those three groups into 3 more. That's 3 and 3 and 3 is 9. And you add to the 3 groups, and that's 12. And then you add it to fundamentals, and that's 13. And I really like that for like no particular reason. I just like the number 13. I like it. It's related to the Fibonacci series, I think. 13 is a Fibonacci number. It's 8 plus 5. And 5 is 3 plus 2. So, you know, it's the Fibonacci series goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on and so forth. 34, 55, I think, is the next one. But yeah, the Fibonacci series. I like the Fibonacci series. That's a thing I learned about when I was a kid. It was really interesting. Man, this is good. But the fundamentals that I had talent with when I first started trying to make art were... I have a good foundational knowledge of form. I understand intuitively that when I draw a shape on the page using a line that indicates the edges of that shape, I recognize that what I'm actually doing is trying to portray a 3-dimensional object. And I recognize that we're looking at the edges of that 3-dimensional object, and that gives me kind of a head start on perspective. There's only one problem, and that problem is that because I have an intuitive understanding of form, but not of line and shape, because I haven't done a lot of work on line and shape, I grasp the idea of trying to portray form, but it kind of separates me from being able to grasp perspective. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. Now I have to blow my nose. It's interesting that I'll insulate my audience from hearing me sneeze or blow my nose, but I'll do absolutely nothing if I let a gross burp. There's probably a lesson to be had. There's some psychology to examine there, but regardless. Being aware that I was working with form gave me a sort of intuitive understanding of perspective, and I always thought that perspective was really easy because of this. You could find me a couple years ago in my video saying perspective is easy. Perspective is just like the easiest thing in the world, because it's just like you have close thing big, far away thing small. See? This feels like a 1980s 3D movie. Pick a card. Any card. Yeah, that's really dorky. Anyway, that's all I thought perspective was. And when people talked about, 1 point and 2 point perspective, when the teacher in my art class first talked about 1 point perspective, I immediately perceived that, well, that's only 1 point perspective because it's facing you straight on. If you turned it, well, now this edge is close and that edge is far, so that edge has to be smaller because it's farther away. And that edge has to be smaller because it's farther away. So you're going to get a vanishing point over here and a vanishing point over there. I just kind of automatically constructed 2 point perspective in my head. And then when the question of 3 point perspective came up, I went, oh, that's obvious. If you tilt it down, well, now you got a vanishing point up there. The core ideas of perspective were always very, very obvious to me. But there's so much more to it than that. There's so much more to perspective that I didn't know and didn't even recognize was there to know until I really started buckling in and learning it, because I had that hole in my knowledge in the study of line and the study of shape. It's like I'm trying to represent form, and I know that you can do this by indicating the edges, and I know you can do this by outlining the shapes, but because I haven't spent time specifically working on line and shape, specifically working on drawing and painting, and it was always just kind of, I don't know. I don't know that there even really is a word for it. I mean, it should be sculpting, really, but I was never good at sculpting. So I don't know. I was never good at sculpting. I was never good at carving. I was never good at subtractive design in any sense. But that hole in my knowledge made it hard for me to recognize just how much complexity there was in perspective. And then covering that up, the other thing that I had some substantial talent in was flow, which with characters we call that gesture. I was always good at gesture and flow, so it's just the feel of the things that I would rough out. There was always this thing where the way that I posed my characters and the way that I arranged my buildings and my streets and just the way that I arranged scenes felt like I was more advanced than I was, because I'd never studied it. I didn't have the vocabulary to explain or articulate it. But I understood things about how objects interrelate to one another in a scene that most people have to study. So that gave me kind of a head start on being able to compose good scenes. It did not give me a head start in being able to make them. It did give me a push toward understanding anatomy and architecture and construction, which are not especially difficult, but I do have to study them and practice them. But the hole in the fundamental of perspective, where I didn't know line and shape, but I knew form, that has proven to be an obstacle in representing what I want to represent on the paper. And then with composition, the understanding of flow and the way that leads into construction, those two things, they feel like I should be farther along than I am. And then on top of that, there's lighting. And in lighting, you've got three different things. You've got value, color, and texture. I have no talent in any of those things. And I've invested substantial effort in color and in texture. But I haven't done a lot of work in value, and I need to do more work in value. I don't want to do work in value because it's boring and it's stupid, but that's because there's too much stuff for me to learn. I mean, I've talked about where boredom comes from and how to deal with boredom in the past, and fundamentally, you're bored with a topic because there's too much for you to learn from it, and because there's too much for you to learn from it, you can't focus on the thing you need to learn. And that's difficult for me. I'm not really sure how to address that. One of the things that I've been doing, just to give you a quick look, is I've been working on blending values, and I'm just kind of going through. I've made multiple sheets of this to just kind of go through and blend the values and go from dark to light. And you can see that I start from like a half black, half white rectangle, and then I blend that together. And that's just working on the mechanics and getting the blend to look correct. And I really need to start thinking about how exactly I want it to look. I really need to make another one of these. I will be right back. All right, there we go. I have me another one of these. I feel like there are two kinds of people that talk about talent. There's the person who says there's no such thing as talent, and the person saying there's no such thing as talent is typically someone who had some talent, but they want credit for developing the skill that their talent gave them. They don't want to concede that some amount of their skill was not because they worked on it, it's not because they studied, it's not because they practiced, it's just because they came out of the box with it. And then there are people saying that talent does exist, and I think a lot of those people, like almost all of the people saying talent exists, are mostly saying, the reason I'm not better is because I didn't have talent. That guy had talent, and I don't have any talent. I think the reality is a little bit closer to famous potatoes. We all have some degree of talent. We have some degree of skill and ability that didn't come from our own efforts, that didn't come from us working hard and studying and practicing and doing our exercises every single day. There are things we have that we didn't earn. We just got them. We have them, but we didn't do anything to earn them. And accordingly, a lot of us feel like we don't deserve them. Or we recognize that we don't have things that other people have, and the other people didn't work for them, so they didn't earn them, and therefore they don't deserve them. That kind of begs an explanation of how I look at the words deserve and earn, which is a little bit different than most people. I think you deserve whatever you want out of life, no matter who you are, no matter how you go about it, no matter what you do. Whatever it is you want out of life, whatever you want to be, whoever you want to become, you deserve to do that and to be that. You deserve to go and have the things that you want to have and be the things that you want to be. That doesn't mean you're going to have them or that you're going to be them. You have to earn them. You have to go out and get them. Sometimes you have them and you didn't earn them. But the thing is, if you have them, you basically did earn them. You may not know how, you may not know why. Perhaps it was in a previous life, as the Hindus might tell you, or just the luck of the draw, as some anarchist might tell you. But whatever it is, I think whatever it is you have, you've earned. And if you don't have it, you haven't earned it. Because there's a barrier between you and the thing that you want. You deserve the thing you want. You should try to cross that barrier. You should go and do the thing and try to get the thing that you want. And if you do the thing and if you cross the barrier and get the thing that you want, and you have what you want to have and you are what you want to be, then you've earned it. You could tell because you have it, or you got to be the thing. You got to have the thing, you got to be the thing, you've earned it. I think you have presumptively done what you needed to do if you have what you wanted to have or are what you wanted to be. And I think it's shitty to pass judgment and say, no, they shouldn't have that. They didn't earn it. They shouldn't have it. They have earned it. If they hadn't earned it, they wouldn't have it. Now, if you can prove they didn't earn it, if you can prove that they like stole it or they cheated, then go ahead. But to presume coming out of the gate that somebody has stolen what they have or that they've cheated to be what they are, that way lies madness, man, because you can say that about anybody. You can just make that shit up. You can just say, oh, yeah, that guy, he doesn't deserve what he has. He cheated to get it. He lied and stole and did all kinds of unethical, immoral shit to get it. Well, maybe, but if he did, you kind of have to prove it. you kind of have to show some kind of evidence that he didn't earn it legitimately. Jeff Bezos is a big one. A lot of people like to say Jeff Bezos isn't 1,000 times better or 1,000,000 times better than the average employee. Are you sure about that? Because Jeff Bezos invented the concept. Literally, he came up with the concept. He said, we should let people order a product from the website with one click. If you're logged in and you've got a payment method on file and you've got an address on file, then you should be able to click one button and go click, and it's ordered and it's on the way immediately. He came up with that idea, and he said, guys, go build that. Go build that. That's a thing. And a lot of people said, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't let people do that. I don't fucking care. Go do that. Go build the thing. Go build the thing. I told you what to build. Go build it. And repeatedly, the developers came back to him and said, is this what you wanted? And what they brought back was a dozen different variations on, you click the button and it goes, are you sure? Are you sure you want to order that? If you click this button, you're going to order it. Are you sure that's what you want to do? You click this button and just automate. We're going to ship this to you. We're going to charge you. You understand that, right? Are you sure? Confirm? Yes, no, cancel? Maybe? And he had to just sit there with his face in his palm going, no! One click! One click! And he had to argue with them and argue with them and argue with them, and they finally produced it, and he went off and he patented it. And that was the most brilliant thing. That was a tremendously brilliant thing to add to the Amazon store. And nobody can use it because he patented it. Software patents are fucking evil, and we shouldn't allow them. That's bullshit, but that's a separate question. Jeff Bezos did, in fact, invent that concept, and he did, in fact, bring it to his developers and say, we need to do this. And they fought him every step of the way, and he never gave up. He fought back. He earned having that one-click button on Amazon. And that one-click button on Amazon is an absolute fucking lifesaver. It really is. There's so many times I've been glad it was there. As a buyer, as a seller, even more so. The ability for people to go, that t-shirt's cool, I want one, click. I fucking love that. But even as a consumer, even as somebody who just goes, oh my God, I need this thing, I need it now. Where is it? There it is. Ordered now. I love that. It's fantastic. And that's just one of 100 fantastic ideas that Jeff Bezos had in building Amazon. And you're going to sit there and tell me he didn't earn every goddamn dollar of what he makes? Fuck yeah, he earned it. He absolutely earned it. He opened cloud computing to the world with Amazon Web Services. He opened all of those services to the world. He had to build that. He had to build that because otherwise his store wouldn't work. And he said, you know what? I'll bet lots of other companies would like to use this. So we had to build it anyway. Why don't we sell it to them? I'm so glad he did that. He opened... People forget how much cloud compute and cloud storage used to cost before Amazon Web Services. He drove those prices so far down because he said, I've built the biggest and most effective cloud computing platform in the world, and fuck it, I'll rent it to you by the hour. I have products I sell on Amazon that cost me absolutely nothing to produce. I take a picture that I drew and I upload it to Amazon and I say, put this on a t-shirt. And they say, okay. And it goes up on their store. And I don't know why people click on the stupid t-shirt that I made and pay me $25 for it. I don't know why they do that, but they do. And every time I get my $8 cut of that, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm happy with this. It's like the reverse of Steam. Steam takes a 30% cut, Amazon gives you a 30% cut. But for Steam, I got to pay $100 to put my game up there, and I got to build the game, and I got to do a lot of work, and I got to provide my tech support and everything. And it's still a great platform. They still do a great deal of work, and I'm absolutely 100% happy to give them their cut. Not that I do. I don't have anything on Steam at the moment, but when it comes time for me to put my game up on a marketplace, I'm going to put it up on Steam because they do a great fucking job. I got to sneeze again. I hate it when the sneeze is on the way, but it's not actually here yet. So you just kind of, you know it's there. It's like, I'm on the way. And then it just like doesn't show up. It's like when your friend sends you that text that says, I'm leaving now. You know they're fucking not. You know they're not. But Gabe Newell and Jeff Bezos are both like, I mean, they're sitting there and they're doing their stuff and they're doing the best goddamn job. And everybody's like, man, why does Jeff Bezos have so much money? Jeff Bezos has made me thousands of dollars. I'm not the least bit concerned about how much he makes. He's done that for hundreds of people. I've got friends in Nigeria, they sell shit on Amazon. And without Amazon, they would have no business. I have friends in China that are selling stuff on Amazon, and their business wouldn't be as big if they couldn't sell on Amazon. They'd be stuck trying to sell on nothing but Alibaba, and the prices on Alibaba are shit. Jeff Bezos has made millions of people billions of dollars, and I do not begrudge him a single dime of what he's taken as his share of what money has come in. I just don't. I can't be mad at him for it. I can be mad at him for his politics. But he deserves every goddamn dollar he's come up with. It's the same with Gabe Newell. Gabe Newell has built, I mean, when you compare Steam to the Epic Game Stores, Tim Sweetney is the fucking devil. It is just fundamentally, you look at the monetization of Fortnite. You look at that and you just go, man, that's some scummy shit. He's used literally every dirty trick used by every casino from the beginning of recorded history. Since the dawn of time, he's taken every shitty thing you can do to try and get money from people and addict them to your platform. He's used all of them, and it's also squarely aimed at children, isn't it? Yeah, it's deliberately designed to not only use all of the dirtiest, nastiest, most awful tricks to manipulate people. It's directly aimed at children. Yeah, fuck Epic Games, dude. Absolutely fuck Epic Games. But then you compare that to Steam, and you look at what Steam gave indie developers, and how many times do you look at a game and you go, I don't know, do I really want this game? And then you look down at the reviews, and you've got real people leaving real reviews and saying, hey, this is a good game, or hey, this game is bullshit, or whatever. But those reviews matter. How many times have you been stuck in a game and you go to the Steam forums and go, what the fuck? How are you supposed to solve this? Or you go to the guides section, or you go to the art section and you see people that are taking screenshots of the game and they're painting stuff in and they're saying funny shit. I mean, there's a real community on Steam that is a community of gamers who play lots of games. there are there's so much stuff that they offer, not just to the developers of the games who are paying the money, but to the players of the games who, when you think about it, are also paying the money. And that's just, they did a great job, and they built a great platform, and they've earned all of that money that they get. And Epic Games is, when Epic fights with Apple about the walled garden of the iPhone, it's like the devils are fighting the demons, and I'm just like, I don't want either side to win, but I'll certainly cheer when whichever one loses. Epic is very much trying to recreate the game publishing environment of the 1980s, where publishers decide what games you play and what price you pay to play them. They're really, really struggling to put themselves back in that position of power that Gabe Newell and Valve specifically said, we don't need this. We don't need this position of power. We can put the power in the hands of the developers. We trust the developers to make good games and the players to make good decisions. And Epic is like, no, we're the boss. We'll decide who goes in our store and how long they stay there and what they charge. Anyway, what I'm saying is fuck Epic Games. I fucking hate that company. I really, really do. And I come by it honestly. It's the same thing with Apple. Apple back in 1996... Holy shit, that's almost 30 years. Back in 1996, Apple released an update to the QuickTime Player for Windows 95. And in that update, if you actually read the end-user license agreement, which I do, they had a clause in that license agreement that said you are not allowed to express your opinion of any Apple product without written permission from Apple Incorporated. In other words, you need Apple's permission to say, I like this software. You can't review an Apple product without Apple's permission. They need to sign a document that says you're allowed to tell people what you think of their stuff. In practice, what this means is, if you say this product sucks, they can come after you in court. No, don't like that. No, don't like that one fucking bit. And they asked at the end of that end-user license agreement, they said, do you agree to the agreement? Nope. And the setup terminated. And I uninstalled my existing copy of the QuickTime Player. And this is 1996. QuickTime is basically the only way you get video on the internet. But then the Real Audio released the Real Video Player, and the Real Media Player, excuse me. And that gave you an alternative. It was a shitty alternative, but it was an alternative. And shortly after that, the MP4 format started to come out, although that was patented by Fraunhofer and kind of expensive. But we did end up with alternatives after a couple of years. But for a couple of years, I just couldn't play video on the internet because I told Apple to go fuck themselves rather than agree to their end-user license agreement. And I have not used an Apple product since. Still have the, if you look back here in the back, I do actually have a Mac sitting back there. And it's an old Mac SE from the 1980s. I used to be fairly agnostic about Macs, and I used to be fairly anti-Microsoft, and Then Mac's user agreements went to hell, and I went and worked at Microsoft for a while. I went, fuck yeah, Microsoft's pretty fucking cool. And it wasn't working at Microsoft. It was being a Microsoft partner in an OEM. When I first started my software company, I was like, everything we do is going to be open source. It's all going to be open source. It's all going to be on the BSD license. And we couldn't get any fucking work. And then I said, you know what? I'll take anything that I could, anything that will pay us, I will take it. And people went, are you a Microsoft partner? I could be. And I became a Microsoft partner, and Microsoft treated its partners really, really well in the early 2000s. They really very much did. So yeah, I became a huge Microsoft cheerleader, and then I went and worked at Microsoft for a few years. But anyway, talent. It exists. We all have some degree of it. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes it makes your life worse. Sometimes it makes things more difficult. Sometimes you have to fill in the gaps. You have to fill in the holes. Holy fucking shit, Rebel Yell is some good whiskey. I like this. This is good. This is really good. But yeah, that's basically what I had to say about talent, I think. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. So, you know. Okay. Do a little YouTube dance. Like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And, okay, bye.